Good evening, I'm David Robbins.
And I'm Janet Hilton.
And this is the Year in Review
2000. The Olympics were sure exciting this year.
Yeah, how about Sydney, Australia?
I know. Marion Jones had an amazing performance. Let's take a look.
Set. And away they go. Jones got a blistering start. She's already up on Tanu Amotti. Marion Jones. Marion Jones pulling away from the rest. It's going to be Jones all the way. It's a lovely goal for Jones by a streak from Tanu. Wow! This is the Olympic Games. You're not supposed to win by that much. Marion Jones, 10.75. And now the tears can come. Now the emotion can come out. She's been waiting for this for so long. And that is what was expected, but I tell you what, that doesn't make that it has any less impact.
Major news for the United States was the presidential election this year. March 7, 2000, George W. Bush and Al Gore were victorious in the Republican and Democratic primary elections. But it turned out, when they were to face off, it was one of the most difficult and closest elections in U.S. history. Each U.S. president needs 270 electoral votes to win the election. But at this election, the president that got the electoral votes and the popular votes differed. Bush had 271 electoral votes, but only 47.8% of the popular vote. While Al Gore had 48.4% of the popular vote, he only had 266 electoral votes. Let's take a look back at election day, November 7th, 2000. It is election day, November 7th, 2000, and it is a close race. Bush has secured most of the southern and midwestern states, while Gore has taken the northeastern and Pacific. Let's take a look.
Count at this hour, 246 for Bush, 242 for Al Gore. Washington State goes for Gore, keeping his hopes alive. 11 electoral votes in the Evergreen State. The motto up there is by and by, and in the sweet by and by, as it turns out for Gore, he gets Washington's 11 electoral votes. Is it too little, too late? No person can say. What we can say is that Gore's hopes are still alive, because now it's Bush 246, Gore 242. Let me tell you, I don't give people advice, but if the kids haven't gone to sleep, get them in the room, because people are going to be talking about this presidential race for a long time to come. Gore is 28 electoral votes away from becoming president of the United States. Bush is 24 electoral votes away. 246 Bush, 242 Gore. Let's go to the map, because now it's down to a decisive 4 states. Everything in red belongs to Bush. Blinking lights mean the states that went for Clinton Gore in '96 but have gone for Bush tonight. Bush has 246, all the states in red. Gore has 242, all the states in blue. Not many states in blue, but the big ones are, and that's the reason Gore is still in the hunt. He may be lagging a bit, but it's still possible. Florida, 25 electoral votes. Iowa with 7. Wisconsin with 11. Oregon with 7. This is now where the election is going to be decided. Our CBS News election coverage will continue in a moment with Bush out front, 246 to 242 with 270 needed to win.
That was quite an event, as the election had to go to the Supreme Court to decide if the vote in Florida counted or not. But it did, and President Bush won. It's really affected our nation and a lot of other ones, since he's so big on foreign policy. What can you tell us about that?
Well, Bush believes that American foreign policy must be more than a management of crisis. It must have a great and guiding goal: to turn this time of American influence into generations of democratic peace. This is accomplished by concentrating on enduring national interests and by resisting the temptation and withdrawals throughout the world. George W. Bush will pursue a distinctively American internationalism, and he will set his priorities and stick to them to avoid drift in foreign policy.
Well, what do you feel were his main points that he was trying to get across?
You know, I feel that his main points were probably the fact that he wanted no drift and no isolationism. And he actually stated on isolationism that America cannot withdraw from the world. America's foreign policy cannot be founded on fear, fear that American workers cannot compete, and fear that America will corrupt the world. These are all issues on isolationism, and he does not want these. Also on drift, he feels that unless a president sets his own priorities, his priorities will be set by others. And it could be the adversary, or it could be a crisis at the moment, and he believes that he needs to take control of the situation.
You mentioned American internationalism. What is Bush's plan to deal with other countries?
You know what, he's kind of got an agenda for several different countries, and he's kind of grouped them together. For example, Eurasia, he figures that they're the strategic heartland and that they are the greatest priority for us. He says that Eurasia's greatest powers are China and Russia, and that both of these powers right now are in transition.
Yeah.
And so, because they're in transition, we don't really know. We want to create a friendship, and we don't want any turmoil or any conflicts, and so we have to be careful in our actions. He also said that China is a competitor of ours, and that it's not a strategic partner. Because we don't really know a whole lot about China right now, we must deal with China without ill will, but without illusions. So we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We don't want to see things that we hope to be and that aren't really there. He also focused on the U.S. allies in the Pacific, and he stated that we must show American power and purpose and strong support of our American friends and allies. This means keeping our pledge to deter aggression against the Republic of Korea and strengthening securities with Japan. So he wants to keep peace, but he also wants to make it known who the powers are, who's secure, and what's going on. He also wants to focus on democracy and freedom, especially freedom of trade. And involving Taiwan, he stated that we must honor our promises to the people of Taiwan. We do not deny that there is one China, but we deny the right of Beijing to impose their rule on free people. We will help Taiwan to defend itself. So Bush is very strong on democracy, and he is extremely strong on free trade.
Yeah. Is there anything else that he feels pretty strongly about? Perhaps weapons?
Yes, Bush's first order of business is national security of our nation. And in fact, dealing with Russia and rogue nations, especially Russia, has thousands of nuclear weapons, and they may not be secure from rogue nations or just the fact that they're falling apart and decaying in certain areas and they need maintenance. And so he is starting a new strategic relationship to protect the world from these problems. These weapons of mass destruction are posing dangers to everyone, and so we're trying to get the assistance from Russia and other nations to dismantle or protect all this nuclear warfare that's out there as quickly as possible. And also from the danger from these rogue nations, the developing of a missile defense system is very important. And Bush stated that we need missile defense systems, both theater and national. And he stated that it's important that not only that we develop this technology, but that Russia and other nations develop this technology with us so that we may all have a defense system against these possible threats. And it's important that we're able to protect ourselves. And examples like the Test Ban Treaty and proliferation are important so that we will cut back on nuclear threats and nuclear materials, and so that we don't have to worry about these possible threats from rogue nations and just disasters.
Yeah. Thank you. It's pretty important.
Yes.
No one can forget the tragedy of Air France Flight 4590. Blake has the story.